Hello everybody, my name's George Bailey and I am a Methodist Presbyteral minister. I work with Oakwood Church and with Gipton Methodist Church, and this is my thought for today. I want to tell you something I've been thinking about for a few days actually. Something happened to me a few days ago on Tuesday morning. I was out for a run. Now that in itself is not really too unusual. I often go for a run. This run was an unusual route though, because I was out with a purpose this time. As it happens, I was going to the garage where the night before the RAC had helped me leave my car because the electrics had broken down and it wouldn't start. But that is another story that I'm still thinking about. I was out for a run on an unusual route for me. And I saw somebody I know, one of the scout leaders in fact from Oakwood Church. And he too was obviously out for a run, but he'd stopped by a hedge and was looking up at some trees. So I stopped. I hadn't seen him for a while. It was great to see him, had a nice chat. And he'd stopped because he'd spotted some green parakeets, ring-necked parakeets. Maybe you've heard about those. I was really excited, as was he, because certainly I've never seen them before in Leeds. I've seen them quite a lot down south, North London and in Hertfordshire, where I go and visit some family, but never this far north. So we were excited as we chatted and watched out for them. I have to confess, I did not see them, but I knew they were there. I heard them clearly, and I know the call. It was definitely green parakeets. They were in a fir tree with really thick foliage, so you could hear them moving about and hear their call clearly, and I decided it was time I had to go and get to the garage. But I came away quite excited to have been in the presence of these birds near Roundhay Park. I thought, well, perhaps it's because of the lockdown, and I've heard stories about wildlife moving about and changing their patterns of behaviour. So I went home and did some research, but I was wrong. Turns out, of course, that they've been around Leeds and West Yorkshire for decades. People have been seeing them many times over 50 years or so. What had changed then? It wasn't that they'd moved, it was that I had changed. My patterns had changed, and now I was seeing things differently, from a new perspective, seeing things I'd not noticed before, having time to look and stop in a new way. It's got me thinking about how we are seeing things differently because of what's happened to us in the last few months. Some things we're seeing differently have been really challenging. We've seen life and death situations in our families, in our friends, in our community because of the virus. Other things we've been seeing afresh, which have become quite exciting. Within the life of the church, we've seen that people are interested in what we're doing as we make ourselves more available and present online and reach out to people in new ways. Is this because people have changed? Or perhaps it's because we've changed and we're seeing things that were always there about life and death and about people's need for God and for spiritual conversation. We're seeing it afresh for the first time. I wonder what it is that you are seeing anew at the moment because of the way your life has changed in recent months. I'm going to end with a little passage from Mark's Gospel. It's about Jesus helping someone who can't see, but it's also about understanding within the Gospel. This is at a time when Jesus is asking questions of the disciples. Do they see? Do they understand properly who he is? And it's a time when people have asked Jesus for a sign. He said, you don't need a sign. Just open your eyes and see clearly. Mark chapter 8. Some people brought a blind man to Jesus and begged him to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. And when he'd put saliva on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him, can you see anything? And the man looked up and said, I can see people, but they look like trees walking. Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he looked intently, and his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Maybe today you'll see something clearly for the first time in a new way.